Everyone's favorite sexy ghost detectives are at it again in The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Here's my review. The new Conjuring movie attempts to take the franchise beyond the haunted house genre that's made it the highest-grossing horror franchise of all time. It's a commendable and necessary step at this point in the series, and I can speak from experience, having just watched all 8 of them in 1 week. So, does The Devil Made Me Do It succeed? Well, it's definitely trying something different here. It's basically a police procedural masquerading as a horror movie. The second direct sequel breaks the Conjuring formula by having the initial haunting in the prologue tied directly into the main story of the film. Usually that's a side quest that adds more mythology. In the first one it was Annabelle, in the second one it was the Amityville Horror, and in this one we just jump right in the middle of an exorcism of a young boy possessed by a demon. And the problem with not just this exorcism, but all exorcisms ever committed to film, is that they're hard to make unique, especially since they're going to be compared, of course, to the original Exorcist. Now, this one doesn't even bother to shy away from that. In fact, it openly invites the comparison by cribbing a very famous shot from The Exorcist to little effect. But you know what they say, if you can't beat 'em, repeat 'em. The exorcism on the boy fails, so his brother instead invites the demon to possess him. Now that works, but only Ed Warren witnesses it, and that's not good because that man just suffered a heart attack. Luckily, he's still rocking those sweet, sweet sideburns into the 1980s, and I gotta believe that those keep him alive. So then we follow up with possessed brother Arnie Johnson, who murders his cartoonish landlord / dog kennel owner while under the haze of a demonic hallucination, as we all have from time to time. He's then put on trial, and this leads Ed and Lorraine to begin an investigation to prove he was possessed, but they soon uncover something even more foul is afoot. The possession was instigated by an occultist witch lady who lured the demon to the Johnson house with a totem. So Arnie goes to jail. He's still being haunted there, and if he dies along with some other random girl and Ed or Lorraine, it completes the witch's curse, and then, well, a lot of this is very unclear as to what the purpose of completing the curse will do. They don't really explain it, but I assume it's very bad for everyone. Ed and Lorraine go and visit Lord Denethor from Lord of the Rings, who's playing a priest, and he gives them a beautiful exposition dump, very well acted, and then a plot twist of incredible convenience. Suddenly the world feels very, very small. I didn't like it. You'll know it when you see it. I don't know. The occultist stuff plays off the satanic panic fad of the 80s and adds a new element and adversary to the Conjureverse, a Satanist who weaponizes demons. That's actually an interesting idea, an actual flesh and blood villain as opposed to creepy gusts of wind. And I think that part works only because it brings Ed and Lorraine's relationship to the forefront and tests them in new ways, not because there is a witch scurrying around in underground tunnels. It's just a joy to spend time with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and their chemistry is what keeps it interesting even when the stuff happening around them isn't. They love each other, and that's literally what saves them. But there isn't a moment in here as endearing as Patrick Wilson singing Elvis in The Conjuring 2, which I didn't mention in my last video, but in hindsight is the best, most human moment in the whole series. And I wonder if that's also an origin story of his sweet sideburns? It's obvious they're trying to give Ed and Lorraine a lot to overcome, with Ed having a heart attack and Lorraine getting in too deep with the Satanist, but it does make sense to give them something a little more personal rather than just having them show up as unflappable experts. It makes them feel a lot more human, so I don't fault them for that. What I don't think works is the Arnie Johnson stuff, and particularly because this is based on a real murder case in Connecticut, and obviously the Warrens are real people, but I think The Devil Made Me Do It suffers from cherry-picking the wrong real-life facts. Well, not all the wrong real-life facts. They didn't pick that one. Thank God. Ugh. I'm just going to be thinking about him singing Elvis. He's singing Elvis. In the movies, we can like him. It's okay. It's okay. I don't think anyone mistakes these for documentaries, so it's weird to me that they stick to some real facts that weaken the film they're making. For instance, there's a pivotal scene in the movie where Ed and Lorraine agree to help Arnie Johnson's legal team by saying they'll gather physical evidence to present in the case. But then come trial, we see no presentation of evidence. Instead, we skip straight to the verdict. It's a courtroom drama for people who don't like courtrooms or drama. And in the real-life trial of Arnie Johnson, the judge was like, yeah, sorry bro, can't do that, and didn't allow the defense of demonic possession. So they never actually presented evidence. I get that it's the inciting incident to get them to discover the witchcraft, but they could have gotten there another way, and there's actually something really interesting to the idea of putting Ed and Lorraine on trial and having them have to justify their faith and all the things they've seen, but they're not interested in doing that right now. This is our first non-Juan mainline Conjuring movie. Instead, it's directed by Michael Chavez, who directed The Curse of La Llorona. Very happy I get to reuse that song. And Juan's absence is felt. There's one sequence where Lorraine opens a communication through a dead girl that's pretty unique. But there are no set pieces as endearing as Patrick Wilson singing Elvis, nor as clever as Patrick Wilson talking to the possessed girl in The Conjuring 2, where he's got his back to her and you can kind of see her out of focus in the background, nor anything as frightening as the original Conjuring. Even the waterbed sequence in this one, which is definitely a standout, has already been done in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And just a side note on waterbeds for a second. I had a friend in grade school who had a waterbed, and what a weird concept. How did we ever think that was acceptable as a thing? It's like, hey, let's put a miniature pool in your room with a little bit of rubber over it and then see if you can not drown every night. The Devil Made Me Do It actually reminds me a lot of The X-Files. I want to believe. You know, the X-Files movie no one remembers, or maybe they just don't want to remember. It was a smaller one-off Monster of the Week style movie with priest involvement that was extremely disappointing after such a long wait for an X-Files movie. And while it's fun to spend time with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as they fight demons with nothing but their faith and love for each other, ultimately the case in The Devil Made Me Do It isn't compelling nor frightening enough to match the quality of the first two mainline Conjuring movies. So here are my new Conjuring rankings. You can see The Devil Made Me Do It creeping into the bottom half. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is on HBO Max right now, so you can go check it out. Come on back, drop me a comment. Did you agree or disagree with my review? Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe and click the bell and do all the things with the stuff, and I'll show up in your feed. All right, I'll see you guys next time.